It began like most Imperial excursions, casual, smug, and utterly dismissive. Commander Corlax reclined in his gravity-throned command seat aboard the Dominion-class dread cruiser Vengeance Sublime, swirling a viscous purple liquid in his ceremonial chalice. The cruiser floated above Earth, a speck of dust in the Galactic Empire's massive cartographic database. On the screen in front of him, surveillance footage played of humans, laughing, pushing strollers, licking frozen dairy off cones, completely unaware they were being judged by a species that had long since declared themselves gods. "Look at them," Corlax sneered. "Primitive, loud, obsessed with external genital displays and carbohydrate excess." His second-in-command, Officer Trelac, tentatively adjusted the volume as distorted guitar riffs echoed from a feed, apparently coming from a nearby vehicle. "They seem enthusiastic, Commander. Is that a war chant?" "It's Bon Jovi, Trelac. Mid-80s. Harmless," muttered Analyst Zrith, the cruiser's cultural specialist and reluctant earthologist. He didn't look up from his datapad. They worshipped nostalgia and irony, still trying to understand the religious significance of mullets. "Deploy a sweep team," Corlax ordered. "Standard containment, minimal force. Make it quick. I want to be done before the third orbital meal." The sweep squad descended, sleek in black exo-armor, with kinetic stunners clipped to their hips. They fanned out into a suburban park that looked like a matte painting of serenity. Chirping birds, skateboarding teenagers, and families enjoying a temperate afternoon beneath the last days of autumn sunlight. No one noticed the black-armored squad at first. Humans were too absorbed in their own tiny worlds, cell phones, coffee cups, distracted conversations. It wasn't until a hovercraft swept low over a playground that heads turned and camera phones came out. A woman in a blue hoodie and yoga pants watched them warily as she sat on a park bench, rubbing her stomach. She was visibly pregnant and not far along from delivering. She didn't scream or panic. She stood up slowly, one hand on her belly, the other holding a small device, a plastic baby monitor, blinking green. Officer Redhan, young and jumpy, was fresh out of planetary suppression training. The manual had warned of unknown tech, of hidden weapons, of improvised energy dischargers disguised as everyday objects. So when he saw the woman approach, cautious but calm, cradling that blinking object, his brain short-circuited. Fear hit him like a neural spike. "Drop the device," he shouted in Galactic Basic, then immediately switched to a rough translation matrix. She blinked. "What?" He fired. The pulse hit her chest dead center. She jerked once, knees buckled, and she fell, her head striking the concrete with a sickening finality. The baby monitor bounced beside her, blinking one last time before shorting out. Screams followed, of course. Screams and camera phones and people running, but not toward safety. They ran toward her, toward the blood pooling beneath her like spilled wine. "Damage report," Corlax demanded moments later, back on the bridge. Trelac blinked nervously at his tablet. "One casualty. Civilian. Pregnant. Accidental engagement." Corlax waved a claw dismissively. "Log it. Minor incident. Non-strategic." "Sir," Zrith said carefully, "we might want to at least flag this one. There's already a data storm forming on their local networks. The humans are, well, very good at outrage. It spreads like a pathogen in their culture. They're mammals with wireless. Let them shriek," Corlax said with a smirk. "We're untouchable." But in a windowless room, far from a park, far from Earth's news cycle and the chaotic buzz of mourning and protest, something ancient and hidden awoke. Beneath NORAD, for miles down, an alert blared. Sanguine Protocol, Omega. A red light flashed. A lockbox opened. A pale hand reached for a phone. 3 rings. "Go. She's dead." There was a pause. A long one. The kind of pause that doesn't contain silence, but pressure. The kind that breaks bones. "Who?" The voice was raw steel, barely human. "Captain Andrea Mallory." Another pause. A sigh that sounded more like a tremor. "And the child?" "Gone." Across Earth, a dozen men and women snapped to attention as encrypted messages pulsed across quantum mesh relays. Some were generals. Some were hackers. One was a grizzled cowboy with a prosthetic arm and a six-shooter named Rosie. Each received 2 words. Activate Mallory. On the bridge of the Vengeance Sublime, boredom had set in. Trelak was scrolling through TikTok, confused and fascinated by the concept of Florida Man. Zrith was compiling a list of human beverages to submit for intergalactic classification. He had nearly convinced the AI that Monster Energy was a war drug. No one noticed the data spike. Not at first. But then the main screen flickered. Not a glitch. Not interference. A video began to play. Static. Then, grainy footage of Andrea Mallory in uniform. Not a civilian. Not just a mother. A soldier. She stood in a ruined battlefield, cradling a wounded child, weapon slung over her shoulder. She was smiling. A voiceover followed. Male. Calm. Dangerous. You killed a woman today. You didn't know who she was. You thought she was no one. A non-strategic life. Just another Earthling. Images flicked across the screen. Andrea leading teams through alien ruins, arguing with diplomats twice her size, throwing a punch at a 10-foot Mantari warlord, and winning the ensuing duel. She was my wife. Now it was just a face on the screen. General Marcus Mallory. Scarred. Bald. Eyes like storm glass. You've made your last mistake. The message ended. Silence. Zrith exhaled slowly. Oh no. Trelak swallowed. Wait, the Marcus Mallory? Korlax furrowed his brow. Who is he? Zrith didn't look away from the screen. He once negotiated peace by holding a nuke over a council meeting and threatening to detonate it unless they all hugged it out. That's absurd. He's human. The screen flickered again. A final message blinked in red, centered across every active channel. Translation protocols auto-engaged across hundreds of languages. Earth declares war. Full scale. No negotiation. Trelak whimpered. We were just doing a routine patrol. No, Zrith said, pushing back from his station. You were poking a sleeping bear. And you just shot its cub. Korlax turned, pale under his emerald scales. What is their protocol for something like this? Zrith looked up. His voice was hollow. They don't have a protocol. They have Marcus Mallory. In a dark hangar in Nevada, engines roared to life. A woman in a leather jacket cracked her knuckles beside a fighter jet painted with the words "bad decision." In orbit, a listening satellite pinged an ancient code. In Australia, someone loaded a surfboard full of explosives onto a stealth sub. Earth wasn't just angry. Earth was activated. And somewhere deep in space, unaware of the storm they'd summoned, the Galactic Empire carried on, laughing, sipping alien wine, and treating the whole incident as just another trivial line in a daily report. But a reckoning had begun, and the last breath Andrea Mallory ever took would echo across the stars like a war drum. This time, Earth wouldn't forgive. And they definitely wouldn't forget. The Galactic High Council gathered beneath the ivory arches of the Star Citadel on Serelix Prime, light cascading through stained crystal windows depicting ancient victories. 12 figures, tall, gleaming, draped in holographic robes and encrusted ceremonial armor, hovered on anti-grav thrones, their expressions ranging from disdain to mild disinterest. What do you mean Earth declared war? Chancellor Vorax blinked his tri-eyes, voice echoing off the marble dome like thunder made of silk. Ambassador Droven of Sector 9 cleared his throat. We intercepted the transmission an hour ago. Full-spectrum signal, tagged with planetary sovereignty codes, directed at every known Empire relay. It wasn't a joke. No one declares war on us, snapped Archon Biwyrar, tentacles twitching in irritation. Especially not a Category 4 civilization. Technologically, yes, murmured Admiral Kelm, his voice low and cold. But emotionally? Strategically? They're Category Omega, unclassified. What even is a Marcus Mallory? Chancellor Vorax hissed, his exoskull clinking as he turned. General Thrak tapped at his data tablet, pulling up a file. Retired. Decorated 6-time planetary-level strategist. Former commander of the 9th Orbital Shock Corps. Specialized in asymmetrical warfare infiltration and what Earthlings call total vengeance operations. Also notably, the first human to ever be banned from the Galactic Games for, and I quote, excessive competitiveness, grievous enthusiasm, and weaponizing motivational speeches. A low murmur spread. Where is he now? The answer came not from within the chamber, but via a booming message broadcast into the heart of the council itself, overriding all security systems. A face filled the dome's main hollow display. He stood in shadow, backlit by rows of Earth's flags flapping violently in an artificial wind. His jaw was granite. His uniform was black. One silver streak ran through otherwise dark hair, a jagged scar cutting from temple to chin. Marcus Mallory. You killed her, he said simply, no emotion in his voice. You didn't even bother to find out who she was. The council froze. You thought she was nobody, just another Earth civilian. A pregnant woman at the wrong place, wrong time. Maybe that's what your systems logged. But that woman was Andrea Mallory. He stepped forward. The silence in the chamber was total. She was captain of Earth's Diplomatic Security Division. She once stared down an Earthic executioner with nothing but a cup of coffee and a witty insult. She could shoot the wing off a Rornak interceptor from orbit, and she was fluent in 27 dialects, 3 of which are classified. She was a scholar, a warrior, a mother, and my wife. A pause. Now she's gone. So I'm here. The screen vanished. No threats. No ultimatums. Just grief and steel. Back on Earth, chaos simmered into purpose. At Fort Resolute, high in the Rockies, soldiers gathered not in silence, but in fury. Old veterans returned to service without a call. Drones reprogrammed themselves in tribute. Orbital facilities lit up with activity not seen since the Zarnon siege 50 years ago. Everywhere, Marcus walked in shadow. He did not shout. He did not rally. He sharpened. His squad came together like a puzzle of old legends. There was Hale, the demolitions expert who once blew up a mountain to block an alien battalion. There was Ren, Andrea's protege, sniper and tactician, who hadn't spoken a word since her mentor died, but had already built a 60-page kill list. There was Rizzo, a wisecracking New Yorker who coded viral hacks with one hand and threw Molotov cocktails with the other. And there was Bishop. He stood silent when the rest entered, taller than any of them, covered in armor that looked grown rather than forged. No one knew what world Bishop was from. All they knew was that he'd sworn loyalty to Andrea after she pulled him from the wreckage of a biolab bombing. And now he followed Marcus without question. They called themselves the Black Flag Unit. Marcus didn't give speeches. He gave orders. Prep for launch. We start with the Vengeance Sublime. Sir, Hale said, tapping the mission plan. That's the cruiser that. I know. They moved like a symphony of violence. Every movement efficient. Every second accounted for. A quiet moment passed in the weapons bay as Ren stood before Andrea's locker. Her hands trembled as she unlocked it. Inside lay a modified plasma rifle and a locket, one side etched with their unit's emblem, the other a tiny holograph of Andrea holding her unborn child. Ren snapped the locket shut and took the rifle. Across the galaxy, the Vengeance Sublime floated arrogantly in orbit around Micah V, resupplying. Its crew, still riding the high of another completed patrol, remained oblivious. They'd been assured the Earth situation was being handled. Until the hangar doors exploded. Black Flag dropped in like shadows on fire, moving with a speed and precision that made Imperial defenses look like cardboard. The humans wore no insignia, just a black flag stitched to one shoulder, a stylized silhouette of a woman holding a child. The Empire's security officers tried to raise alarms, but systems crashed mid-scream. Rizzo's virus, laced with Rick Astley lyrics and American pop culture puns, pulsed through the ship's neural interface. Doors locked, lights flickered, gravity spiked and spun. And then came the voice, Marcus's voice, broadcast across the ship's internal comms. You killed her. The words looped. In the command bridge, Commander Korlax froze as his own holographic interface fractured, screen by screen replaced with Andrea's face, laughing, alive, glorious. he screamed, drawing his plasma pistol. Too late. The blast doors slammed open and Marcus walked in, black coat sweeping behind him. He didn't fire. He simply looked. The same expression he had when they told him. "You fired the shot?" he asked softly. Redhan, the officer who'd pulled the trigger, was already on his knees. He was young, shaking. His helmet lay cracked beside him, eyes wide with terror and guilt. I didn't know," Redhan stammered. She had a device, I thought." Marcus crouched beside him. "I know what fear is," he said. "But fear without discipline is cowardice. And cowardice killed her." He didn't shoot him. He just stood, turned and walked out. Ren followed him, rifle lowered. Rizzo stayed behind, tossing a flash drive onto Corlax's console. "From Earth," he said with a wink. "Contains memes, viruses, and about 30 exabytes of cultural vengeance." Back aboard Earth's flagship, Marcus stood before a viewport, watching as vengeance sublime was scuttled and set adrift, a floating tomb of its own guilt. His fingers curled into a fist. "It's not over," Bishop rumbled behind him. "No," Marcus said. "It's just beginning." He reached into his coat and pulled out Andrea's locket. Held it tight. "You killed her," he whispered again. "Now you'll know what that really means." Behind him, the stars burned quietly. But Earth was coming. Operation Baby Monitor was not a sanctioned mission. It wasn't filed under any official Earth military protocol, nor did it pass through diplomatic channels. It was written in Sharpie on the side of a plasma grenade, signed with the initials AM, and executed with the kind of precision only love-fueled vengeance could produce. They dropped in silence. No music this time. No grand speeches. Just vacuum, velocity, and velocity's cruel best friend, gravity. The Black Flag unit free fell toward the Empire's central data spire on Gorvax Prime, tucked inside a shipping container labeled Vintage Earth Electronics. Handle with irony. The container landed with a thunderous thud in a warehouse outside the spire's perimeter, scattering Imperial dockworkers and triggering only mild curiosity. Nobody opened it. The last container marked Earth culture had triggered 6 mental breakdowns and 1 spontaneous dance-off. This one just sat there, until it didn't. With a low hiss, the panel folded down, and out stepped Marcus Mallory, Hale, Ren, Rizzo, and Bishop. Dressed in matte black infiltration suits and armed with a mix of human ingenuity and stolen alien hardware, they moved like phantoms, silent, efficient, and deadly. Their objective was simple: hack the Empire's central civilian registry and overlay Andrea Mallory's death across every screen, every channel, every news feed in the Empire. The purpose wasn't tactical. It was emotional. Make them feel her. They crossed the warehouse in a staggered formation, Rizzo trailing with a jury-rigged backpack, blinking like a Christmas tree wired by caffeine junkies. "This rig better work," Ren muttered, eyes scanning the horizon. "Oh, it'll work," Rizzo said. "Might play Britney Spears mid-download, but we'll get the files." "Define might," Marcus said without turning. There was a beat. Rizzo grinned. "It will. Definitely." I leaned in. They reached the spire's outer wall, a smooth obsidian facade that pulsed faintly, alive with security protocols. Hale approached with a handheld tool resembling a soldering iron mated with a chainsaw. He touched the wall. Sparks flared. "You have 30 seconds, he said, teeth clenched. Ren took position to cover the alley, rifle steady. Her fingers twitched on the trigger. It had been weeks since Andrea's death, but her voice still echoed in Ren's head, calm, confident, always with that slightly amused lilt that made orders sound like challenges. Marcus waited, hands still. His mind was elsewhere, locked in a loop of memories that played behind his eyes like war documentaries. The way Andrea used to say his name like it belonged to her. The way she tapped her stomach every time she laughed. The way she died with no one holding her hand. The wall cracked open with a satisfying click. They slipped inside the spire. The hallways hummed with data pulses and the soft sigh of machinery. Drones floated past them, oblivious to the cloaking field Rizzo had installed, a field powered by old Earth batteries and wrapped in foil just in case. They moved floor to floor, deeper into the core. Hale cleared the stairwells with micro-breaches, placing charges that barely made noise, but left doors looking like they'd been chewed through by an angry robot beaver. Bishop, massive and silent, hauled their equipment like it weighed nothing. He hadn't spoken since Andrea's death. He didn't need to. His presence said everything. The team reached the data vault, a spherical chamber bathed in blue light, where endless racks of memory crystals rotated slowly around a central console. It looked like a cathedral built by mathematicians. Rizzo plugged in. Lights danced across his visor as the system resisted, pushed back, then surrendered. "Downloading the civilian network now," he said. "Injecting a package, and hold up." "What?" Marcus asked. They tried to erase her." The words hit like a slap. "Explain," Wren said, stepping in. "Their official registry. There's no record of Andrea Mallory. Like she never existed. Like her name was wiped post-mortem." Rizzo's hands trembled for a second. Even the footage of the patrol incident, gone. Marcus stared at the console. His reflection looked alien in the glass. "They think she was a footnote. An inconvenience. Something to delete." "No," he said. "Not anymore." He uploaded the payload himself. Andrea's image bloomed on every terminal in the Empire. Her face, serene, strong, radiant, filled street screens on trade planets, appeared mid-commercial on corporate broadcasts, interrupted children's cartoons on backwater colonies. The message was clear. You killed her. She was everything. Now you face Earth. The package included her service record, her diplomatic work, her Medal of Honor, her wedding photo, her holding a coffee mug that read "This is what diplomacy looks like," and finally, a video of her laughing, hair windblown, reaching for the camera. "Hi," she said. "If you're watching this, I'm probably dead. Which means Marcus is very mad. Which means you're probably already losing." The video ended, and the Empire began to panic. Marcus stepped back. "It's done." But the mission wasn't over. An alarm blared, high-pitched and warbling. Wren spun. "They've located us." "Fall back?" Rizzo asked, already pulling the drive. "No fallback," Marcus said. "Next phase." They had a second objective. Red Han, the officer who had fired the shot. He had been reassigned, protected, sheltered within the Citadel of Inquiry on nearby Artaxis, an administrative fortress where inconvenient truths went to die. The Black Flag unit's next target. They had 5 minutes to escape before reinforcements would descend. The team blasted through the southern corridor, Bishop absorbing turret fire like a battering ram in tactical boots. Hale left firecracker traps at every turn, devices that emitted loud baby cries, followed by explosive glitter bursts. Psychological warfare. They exited through a maintenance hatch and sprinted toward the extraction point, where a battered freighter waited, painted sky blue with the words "Not Suspicious" on the side. Inside the freighter, the pilot, a woman with purple hair and aviators, chewing gum like it owed her money, grinned. "Y'all ready to ruin more empires, or what?" It was Mox, Andrea's old flight partner. Marcus just nodded. The freighter peeled into the sky as the data spire exploded behind them. A chain reaction of Rizzo's backdoor viruses turning the tower into a glowing tombstone for Imperial secrets. From orbit, the spire looked like a lighthouse collapsing into itself, and at the very center, visible to every watching drone, one symbol burned bright. A stylized baby monitor crossed with a rifle. Andrea's legacy. Their message had spread. Planets began asking questions. Imperial soldiers started murmuring. Andrea Mallory wasn't nobody. She was the spark. And Earth had just lit the match. Inside the freighter, Marcus sat alone, the baby monitor from a park, retrieved during the raid, resting in his hands. He pressed play. Static. Then her voice, faint and crackling, barely audible over the recording. "Just you and me, little one. You're gonna be strong, just like your father." The monitor fizzled and died. Marcus didn't cry. He hadn't since the day she fell. But his hands clenched tighter. Next stop, the Citadel of Inquiry. He was done sending messages. It was time for consequences. The Citadel of Inquiry stood like a dagger plunged into the red soil of Artaxis, its obsidian towers clawing at the gray sky, pulsing with cold, methodical purpose. Here, the Galactic Empire buried its secrets, war crimes, suppressed rebellions, erased civilians. It was where truth came to be dissected, sterilized, and forgotten. Inside its cold halls, Officer Redhan paced. He hadn't slept in days. Every whisper echoed. Every shadow looked like the vengeance he knew was coming. They told him he was safe here. That Earth's declaration was a political stunt. That Andrea Mallory was just a footnote. But he knew better. He'd watched the footage. He'd seen her face plastered across the galaxy, burned into every neural net, every public feed, every child's learning implant. And then came the silence. Earth had gone dark again. That's what terrified him the most. Outside, a storm rolled in, not of wind or rain, but of human fury and ingenuity. The Black Flag unit approached with deliberate calm, hidden by cloaking fields and electromagnetic interference. This wasn't a raid. This was an execution of justice. Citadel has a tripwire grid, Rizzo whispered, tapping at a wrist console. I've rewritten it. As far as their sensors are concerned, we're authorized janitors here to clean up spilled data. They're not wrong, Hale muttered, strapping a charge to his belt. Just depends on the kind of mess we're scrubbing. Wren took the lead, navigating the corridors like she'd built them herself. Her mind was razor-sharp, locked in. Every footstep a promise. Bishop brought up the rear, massive and silent, a presence more than a man. His eyes glowed faintly, scanning for threats. No one questioned his calm. No one had to. And Marcus walked like a storm in human skin. They breached the central hub in under 7 minutes, subduing guards with quiet precision. No casualties. Not yet. Not until they reached Redhan. He was in the upper chamber, cowering behind a security shield, clutching a plasma pistol like a child holding a toy gun. When the door opened, he didn't fire. He simply fell to his knees. I didn't mean to kill her, he stammered, eyes wide, voice cracking. She scared me. She had something in her hand. I panicked. Marcus stepped forward, expression unreadable. You didn't panic. You decided she wasn't worth understanding. You had time. You had training. You had a choice. I didn't know who she was, Redhan whispered. Marcus tilted his head slightly. Does that change what you did? Silence. I see your face every night, Redhan choked. I see her fall. I see the blood. Please. I'm sorry. Marcus's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Her name was Andrea Mallory. She was my wife. And she carried our child. Rethan's hands trembled. What are you going to do to me? Wren lifted her rifle. Hale stepped forward with a blade. Even Bishop's gaze narrowed, mechanical muscles flexing. But Marcus raised his hand. Nothing. The others stared. Marcus continued. Killing you would be justice. But justice alone isn't what Earth wants. He reached into his coat and dropped a small device on the floor. It activated with a pulse. A hollow feed began to record, transmitting live across the Empire. This, Marcus said, turning to the camera, is Officer Redhan. He killed a pregnant civilian without provocation. His superiors erased the evidence. The Empire protected him. Redhan wept, unable to look up. Marcus looked directly into the feed. But we are not here for revenge. We are here for reckoning. He gestured, and Rizzo tapped a command. Files began uploading. Internal Empire documents, combat footage, sanitized death counts. Entire libraries of evidence the Citadel had buried. Every truth they tried to kill was now waking up, live, raw, unfiltered. You don't get to forget her, Marcus said. You don't get to erase the lives you ended. You will remember Andrea Mallory, and every face you turned away from. The screen blinked out. The building shook. Explosions began deep in the lower levels. Rizzo's doing. Just enough to ensure the Citadel would never again house lies. As alarm screamed, Marcus turned to Redhan one last time. You live with this now. That's more than she got. Then they were gone. The Black Flag unit disappeared into the night sky aboard their stolen interceptor, streaking away from the collapsing fortress as the Empire's past crumbled into ash. But that wasn't the end. The final blow came days later. Earth's diplomats, dressed not in armor but business suits, appeared before the Galactic Council with one demand. The Empire would dissolve, not through war but revelation. All systems harboring human sympathizers were already in open rebellion. The Andrea broadcast had become a rallying cry, a signal that no more silence would be tolerated. Entire fleets deserted. Empire governors surrendered en masse. Even AI overseers began refusing kill orders based on ethical conflict. The Empire's pillars cracked, not from bombs, but from truth. Andrea's name became a symbol not of vengeance, but of responsibility. Statues rose not of warriors, but of a woman in civilian clothes, holding a baby monitor. The flag of Earth changed. Black background. A silver silhouette of a mother and child. Beneath it, one word: remember. On a quiet morning months later, Marcus stood alone at the memorial garden on Luna Base. He wore no uniform, just a simple jacket. His beard had grown. His eyes, though still fierce, had softened at the edges. He placed the baby monitor, repaired, silent, at the base of Andrea's statue. Flowers surrounded it. A wind that wasn't wind stirred the air. Behind him, footsteps approached. It was Ren. She didn't speak. She simply stood beside him. She would have hated all this, Marcus said after a moment. The statues. The speeches. She would have rolled her eyes, Ren agreed, smirking faintly. Then corrected their spelling. Marcus laughed. A soft, broken sound. Then silence. A small sound cut through. Click. The baby monitor glowed green. Static hissed. Then a voice, faint, preserved, crackling through layers of repair and time. Love you both. Marcus closed his eyes. And for the first time since that day in the park, he allowed himself to breathe. The Empire had made many mistakes. But killing Andrea Mallory? That was the last one they'd ever get to make.